Should Awesome. Okay, so don't worry. It's just going to record my screen, make sure it's recording and everything like that. But long story short, again, make sure everyone's muted, please. Let's see here. Gonna mute. There we go. Okay, sweet. So we're gonna be doing out a really simple landing page like this. In fact, if you want to see a reference, my landing page looks like that. If you go to austinacres.com, will actually be like, you know, whenever you refresh or whenever you like load in, it'll actually do some nice CSS animations, but something really simple. But what we're going to do first is actually just sort of build out our own little version of this, okay? And then if we have enough time, we'll then add in some CSS animations. I'm not sure if anyone has ever done like keyframes or anything like that, or whatnot. But as if we can't get to that this time around, we'll get to that like next time around, and we'll have a little bit of fun. So to start things off, what we'll do is I'd like for you all to go to github.com/freecodecampdallas/CSS projects. And if you're like, this is too long to type, I'm going to go ahead and let's see, there should be a chat. All right, so on the bottom left, you should see a little chat window to the right side of that little hand where you can raise your hand. And it says open and close chat. You should be able to see it. Copy and paste that link. And let me know. As I said, raise your hand. I think if you're able, if you all can, you know, if you're all able to do that. Okay. So, yes. Okay. So, oh, somebody would like to speak. Oh, give me one moment. Raise your hand real quick. Oh, okay. Raise your hand. Everyone good? Okay. Okay. Awesome. Sweet. So everyone, go ahead and download this. Oh, can you make sure you mute yourself, please? Thank you. All right. Awesome. So after we download this, we're going to inside the landing page. As I said, you can either git clone it. So one way to do that is to, and I'll go ahead and show you that myself. So what I'll do is that you can either you can download it as a zip. You can open it with GitHub Desktop if you have that downloaded, or better yet, you can use the terminal to also clones or like download this repo. Okay, so what does that look like? I'm going to go ahead and do that real quick. Bring that over here. And so I have I'm gonna go ahead and delete this as well too. So I have a folder inside like this GitHub, inside like my documents, and I said, hey, you know what? I want to create a folder called freeCodeCamp projects. Okay, so this is where I'll hold all the repositories that we'll be working with. This is just on my computer for anything freeCodeCamp related. And what I'll do is that I'm going to open up the terminal. Okay, and if you don't have Git Bash, you can always right click, or if you're on Windows, you can shift right click, and you can use your you can either use the Linux shell if you have that downloaded, or the I think PowerShell should work too. Okay, and that should work. So so either or. But long story short, in order for you to clone a project in a certain folder that you want, I recommend you do you would type in git clone. Okay, hopefully everyone see this. So git clone, and then I would then copy this URL, and you can copy that right here. You can right click and paste it, and then you would, because that is the URL that you're wanting to clone, all right? And then you press enter, and now you've just cloned the CSS projects repository, okay? So what we're gonna do now is that we're gonna go inside of this repository, okay? Or folder, you want to call it. So we'll go inside CSS projects, and you can click tab to finish, to like auto finish. Okay, it's something really cool in Terminal I recommend you all get used to. And you can type ls. So what's inside our CSS projects folder, right? We see I want to go inside the
Is Austin's audio out?
Yeah, I think we lost his audio.
All right, can y'all see me now? Can you hear me?
There we go.
Awesome. Yeah, I don't know what happened. Huh? That's weird. I'm guessing my Wi-Fi is like terrible right now, and I get like 200 down, so I'm gonna have to call Spectrum. They're killing me recently. Um, but can y'all see me now? Or can y'all hear me?
Yep.
All right, awesome. Okay, yeah, sorry about that. So
Yes.
I'm gonna go ahead and just open up this like the landing page directory. I'm gonna open that up, and in Visual Studio Code, if you're like, hey Austin, I don't know how to do that, you can literally just open up Visual Studio Code, you just open up a new window, and then go directly to go to more, or better yet, sorry, open folder, and then find where you I have a lot of code. Okay, let's see here, a lot of projects. And then find where the landing page is, select it, and then open it as well. So there's several different ways to go about that. Okay. So again, just something like that. Next thing, what we'll do is now that we're in Visual Studio Code, we're going to go to the Start folder. Okay. So to start things off, what we'll do is we are going to go ahead and crack open. Oh, let me go ahead and crack this open. All right, let's see here. We're going to go ahead and see what this current inside our start folder, what our index.html looks like. Okay. So when we click it and we open this, it's like blank. Nothing is there. Okay. And rightfully so. If we look inside the HTML, and I'll zoom in a bit, hopefully that is a bit better to everyone. Can everyone see that? We're pretty much starting with a blank canvas. So everything, we just have our, as I said, we just have a very basic layout, a default, just scaffold for our HTML. And if we go into our CSS, same thing applies as well. All right. Now, what is it going to look like? Again, it's going to look like, let's go inside our finished folder. I'm going to open that up real quick. And it should, boom. And our end result that we'll have by the end of this hour, it will look like this. Now, you don't have to put Austin Akers. I know I'm pretty cool, but I'm not cool enough for that. Okay. For me to, all right, so let's see here. So we'll put your first name, last name, what you do, and then a link to whether it be view your portfolio, and then also a link to your GitHub. Okay. And when you click the link to your GitHub, notice how it actually links to like your GitHub and in a different page. Okay, it'll actually open it up in a different page. Okay, and we'll show you how to do that. All right, but when you click portfolio, again, if you want to build off of this, you can sort of build your own portfolio, work with it and everything. But it's not going to link anywhere. Okay. But for now, let's go ahead and get started and let's dive in. Okay. Now, the first
Hey,
thing,
Austin.
yeah, what's up? Can you hear me?
Could we check? I'm not sure if everybody has GitHub or was able to
Ah,
get this set
yes.
up. I
Okay,
just wanted to make
gotcha.
sure nobody's lost.
Yeah, thank you for asking that. How's everyone doing? And did everyone get that set up? I know I'm like jumping into this, but I want to go. Thank you for pointing it out, Joe. Let's take a step back real quick, and I want to know if everyone was able to download the landing page from GitHub. Was everyone able to do that?
Yes.
Okay, awesome. Okay. Does everyone have some sort of like code editor, whether it be Sublime Text, Visual Studio Code? Does everyone have that all set up? All right. And were they able to get that installed? And were they able to open up the landing page inside their text editor? Has anyone had any problems with that? How's everyone doing on that part?
You might have to go on without me for a second. I'm at the library and my Norton VPN isn't working, so I'm not able to get on GitHub. I'm trying to mess with that, try to get my VPN working.
It's all right, man. Hey, also this is recorded as well too. So even if you're not able to even if you're not able to work with this, or even if you're not able to do it right now, I'll make sure to post the recording on, like, I think we have like a YouTube channel, so I'll make sure to post that as well. Okay, and you can take a look at this later. So there's no problem whatsoever. Okay. All right. So next up, what we are going to do is, as I said, if everyone, as I said, from what I'm following, everyone has the project downloaded. everyone now has inside their text editor, they now have, as I said, they've now opened up the landing page like code base. Okay, we've all gone into the start folder, and as I said, we've already taken a look at what our finished product is going to look like. Okay, it'll look a little bit populated, not too bad, quite a bit of styling, but we'll go through all of this, and you'll be able to better understand what exactly is going on. And by the end of this, you will have learned, as I said, a little bit more how CSS works. Okay, so let's go ahead and dive in. Okay, now the first thing that we're wanting to do, and the first thing that we should do, is we're going to go ahead and create, inside our body tag, we're going to go ahead and create a div. Okay, so inside this this div right here is going to be our container. In fact, what we will is that this is where everything will be contained, everything from our title, which is where our name is going to be, our subtitle, which is where going to be like the descriptions of like where I had UI engineer, cellist, dancer, whatever it is. Okay, and then we'll have 2 buttons. Okay, so let's go ahead and sort of plan this out real quick. Okay, so we're going to have this first div. It's going to have a container, or it's going to be called. We're going to give it a class name of container. And we'll style what is it. We'll go ahead and define that class name in our CSS, and we'll give it we'll give it properties and everything. The next thing that we want to do, and I'm going to go ahead and just sort of like lay this out. Okay, we want to have a title. All right. We're then wanting to. I probably should have did this beforehand, but we're gonna then after that we're gonna want to have a subtitle. Okay. And under this, what we're going to want to have is that under the subtitle, we want to have kind of what we saw before. We want to have a let's see here, this landing page. We want to have 2 buttons, one that says View Portfolio and one that just takes us to our GitHub. Okay, so this is going to be our title. This is going to be our subtitle. We're going to have 2 buttons. One's going to view our portfolio, one for clicking it to be able to take us to viewing our portfolio. Another one to our GitHub. And then we'll also get to like this little cool edgy thing that we did in the background. Okay, so that'll be some fun CSS that we'll learn. Okay, but as I said, we're gonna have 2 buttons. All right, and I'm gonna make this a multi-line. Okay, under the subtitle we'll have 2 buttons, one for viewing, one that has a title name of View Portfolio, and the other one is going to have one that's going to link to our GitHub. Okay, so easy enough. Everyone following me here? Yes, no, maybe so. All right, cool. I like it. Okay, so next up, what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and just, as I said, we wanted this title first, right? So the first thing we're going to do is that we're going to we want to go ahead and define a title. Now, we're going to go ahead and our title is going to be an H1. Okay, we're going to give it a class name of title, but we'll go back to it in just a moment. But we're gonna our H1 is going to have which is our title. It's going to be our name. So name is Austin Akers. I'm going to go ahead and save this. And if you were to go back and you want to refresh your page and take a look, you'll see that we have Austin Akers here. Okay, simple enough. Next up, what we'll do is that we want a subtitle as well. And this subtitle, it's not going to be an H1. It's going to be an H2, in fact. And this subtitle is going to have, just give it there's a list of things you do. If you're a musician, if you're a dancer, if you just stuff that your hobbies, whatever you enjoy doing. Okay, you can say developer, you can say web developer. Okay, web developer. I'm going to give it that pipe symbol, dancer, and then also what else do I do? Gamer. Okay. So I love gaming as well. Okay, and when we refresh, we should see Austin Akers, web developer, dancer, gamer. Okay, so we've defined a title so far, and we've now defined also a subtitle. Everyone following me here still? Everyone good? Yeah, just H1, H2. If you have any questions, let me know. All right, and we're gonna go back, and as I said, what we're gonna do now is, you see how this right here is sort of all the way to the left? Well, when we look over here, we have this in the middle, right? So how do we do that? And this all actually comes down to our container. Okay, so what we're going to do is, you see how we gave this outer div that contains all of this right here. The name container, because it's going to contain all of like our elements, like all our style, everything like that. Yeah. So what we're going to do now is that we're going to go inside our CSS, and we're going to go inside our container. And in fact, I'll go ahead and I'll zoom in a bit more, so hopefully everyone can see. Can everyone still see? Everyone see well? Cool. We're gonna have some fun with this container, okay? So what is it that we want our container to do, okay? Well, first thing, what we're gonna do is that we're gonna go ahead and center our container, okay? So we're gonna do margin. So what we'll do is that we're gonna give it a couple styles, and I'll go through this in just a moment, okay? Margin 0 auto. We want our container, because we want it to span the entirety of our page, we're going to give it a minimum height of 100 VH. Now, does anyone know what VH is? And like I know we've heard pixels and percentages, and like I don't know if anyone has ever EMs. Does anyone know what VH is?
So view height.
Yes. All right, awesome. So 100. This is 100. Pretty much like 100. 100 like I want to say 100% of like our view height, but it's weird saying percent. And then next up, what we'll do is we're gonna go ahead and, has anyone here worked with flexboxes before? So we're kind of diving in here, and I might have to give a little bit of a primer, but has anyone here worked with flexboxes, or at least somewhat familiar with them? Oh, let me open this chat up real quick. Yes, a bit. Okay, awesome. Oh, and how do I refresh my screen? What I'm doing to refresh my screen, by the way, is I can click that little refresh button where it says reload this page. And you just reload it, okay? And then you should be perfectly fine. Yes, and Jonathan, nice catch. Yes, Flexbox Froggy is something really cool. Oh yeah, VS Lite server. I have not used that. I need to use that. Yes. Thanks, Rob. Yeah, so if you aren't familiar with Flexboxes, Flexboxes is a really intuitive way for you to be able to pretty much, like as I said, work the box layout. Okay, you can do a lot of really amazing things, and in my opinion, it's really nice. What's a little bit next level than that is also CSS grids, but that's a whole different story for a different day. But I recommend that you look into Flexboxes. I think CSS Tricks has some phenomenal articles on it. Someone linked Flexbox Froggy, something just practice your Flexbox, mastery. But it's really nice. Just look into Flexboxes, okay? But what we're gonna do now is we're gonna say display flex, okay? And then what we're gonna do now is justify content. All the content that we have, we want to put in the center, okay? Now also what we're going to do now is that we're going to do align items center. And before I go in, and then we're going to say text align center. Now before I continue, does anyone here want to take a shot and explain exactly what all of this is doing? Anyone? And as I said, have some fun with it. Oh, thanks for linking that, Andy, by the way. And anyone want to take a stab at it? Even just one line, just one line.
So they put for Flexbox, I mean, align center, just make all the text center. So just for, if we want to choose Flex, we're using that. Or justifying content. I don't remember that.
Okay, awesome. So you said justify content. Is anyone familiar with justify content at all? I said you can totally Google this while I'm like asking this question. I'm telling you right now, okay? This is not. So is anyone here familiar with any of this at all? Align items, center. Anyone? Just take a stab at it. As I said, even if you like just want to just shoot something out there, I think the best part about development is that even if you get it wrong, you learn from it, and that's how you grow as a developer. Don't worry about trying to always have the right answer. Even if you don't know, take a stab.
Justify content, is that left to right. And then align content is up and down unless you. I know there's a way to change that though too, right?
Yeah. But align, yeah, align. Yeah. So justify content. I like it a lot. Actually, is used also with it's used with like Flexbox and everything like that. But it aligns the flex items at the center of the container. So you're totally right. Okay, so you're able to like just center all those items. Okay, and what I probably should have done inside of this is actually give it a div and put all of that inside of this. So, so when we refresh this, and if y'all want to take a look and see what the results are, all this loveliness is right here in the middle now. Cool, right? So we've now totally, yes, align items is vertical. Yes, that's what I'm talking about. Okay, sweet. Someone either just knew it or someone Googled it. I love it. Awesome. See? As I said, this is supposed to be fun. So even if you get it wrong, like I get a lot of things wrong, okay? But it's just a matter of learning from it, okay? So even if you don't know, shout out something, all right? Have some fun with it. This programming is supposed to be fun.
Well, I never remember all of this stuff. I even don't think that I have to remember them, right? Or I should. Or I might be wrong.
Don't. That's why I said Google it. That's why I literally said.
If I wanted to remember flex and grid and everything else, it's not. I don't know if it's maybe my mind. Remember everything, but I don't.
Yeah, no, it's perfectly okay. As I said, usually remember things that you practice very often. So if you want to become really good at Flexbox, you just practice Flexboxes very often, or use it very, you build layouts a lot, okay? Or you just you manipulate Flexboxes a lot, okay? I still have to recall quite a bit whenever I use Flexboxes, and I'm even like now getting into CSS grids, and I'm just like, whoa, So as I said, it's always a learning process, but I don't always expect.
Like you said that anytime you want to use it, just Google it.
Yeah. As I said, always. As I said, that's just me. I may not remember all the information, but I definitely know where to find that information. Okay. So yes. So now that we've had that, the next thing we want to do is now that we've had our title, our subtitle, we want to go ahead and add these two buttons. Okay. As you can see here, when we hover over them, they highlight they fill in, and then the text inside there turns white, and this as well. Okay. When we go back to this, as I said, what we'll do is we'll go ahead and get all the styling. We'll make this a lot of, we'll blow it up a bit more. And we'll make it look a lot nicer, okay? But right now we're wanting to get the content in there. So the next thing we want to do is we can go ahead and I will go ahead and create. Okay, so the accessibility people are going to kill me. So I guess I'm going to go ahead and do a button. I'm just thinking about this just now. We're going to create a button. I was going to do an A. Ready yet? Let me see real quick. This is what I was about to do. Okay. An anchor tag, and ready yet? I'm going to create a div, and this div is going to hold the links. Okay. So I'm going to give it a class of links. Okay. And it's going to hold two tags. So the first one is going to be, as we see right here, view portfolio. And the second one that we have here is going to be a way for us to go to our GitHub. So GitHub, okay? So as you can see here, we've created two buttons. The first button is going to be going to allow us to view our portfolio. The second one is allowing us to go to GitHub. Now, whenever, as I said, I always feel very indifferent about styling styling anchor tags into buttons. It makes me feel very indifferent and whatnot. So something that just to look out for from accessibility, ways to actually improve on this. And in fact, at the end of this, what I'd like you all to do is actually go out, and when we come back, after you leave, I want you actually to go back. I want you everyone to like refactor this and try to make this a lot better. Okay, not only accessibility friendly, but as we start going more and more, we add more styles. Like try to make it look a lot prettier as well too, as I said, our CSS. So But for now, we have a links. We're going to go ahead and up here, we're going to add a class of title. And then in this H2, we're going to give ourselves a class of subtitle as well. Okay. But looking back at this right here, this landing page, we see that this link, this button right here, this view portfolio, that's green, and this one's gray, right? So two different types of buttons. So what we'll do is that we'll give each one of these, we're going to give it a class of button. So I'm just going to just say BTN for short, and then button green, okay? And this GitHub one that we saw, it was gray, right? So not only when we give it a class of button, but then button gray, okay? And let me go ahead and capitalize GitHub. Okay, so what do we want to do here? Let's go ahead and style this real quick, and we'll kind of work our way back down, okay? So if we come back here, we refresh, we see that we have a very ugly landing page. For some people, they may think it's really beautiful. I don't think so, okay? So what we'll do is that we'll go here, and although we've added our as I said, our links and everything like that, one for our view portfolio, our GitHub, we're now just going to go and just, as I said, we're going to just work our way down. We're going to style the title, style the subtitle, and then we'll go in here and then we'll style our buttons, okay? So let's go ahead and do this real quick. So let's go ahead and dive in here and let's style our titles, or our title, okay? So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to give it, as I said, we're going to make this display. So if we take a look here, so we're going to go ahead and give this a font weight, or better yet, a font size of 100 pixels, okay? And we're also going to give it, as I said, we kind of want this to look a little bit better. So when we save this, we refresh, looks larger, right? I kind of think this this lettering is kind of hugging each other a bit. So we're going to give it we're going to do some letter spacing, okay? Has anyone ever used letter spacing before? Anyone here ever use letter spacing?
Yeah, I just give some space with the letter.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. So all it's really doing, letter spacing, is just if we refresh this and we take a look, boom, we see we have a little bit more spacing between each letter. Okay, and if you're like, oh, Austin, I really couldn't see that, if I do 10 pixels, you will see that it's even the spacing between these letters is even greater. Okay, you want to do like 50 pixels. Now, as you can see now, you can definitely see that the letter spacing is definitely is spaced out a bit. Okay, so whenever you want to compensate, or whenever you want to sort of as I said, just go a little bit further into typography and whatnot. If you're just like saying, hey, these letters are a little bit too crunched in or something like that, use letter spacing. Okay, so next up, what we'll do is we'll set a font weight of 300. Okay. So we'll save this, and it's a little bit better, right? Doesn't look too bad.
Hey Austin, do you go like back and forth? Sometimes you use M's, sometimes rims. Is there like a certain, or like certain times that you go with certain measurements?
Yeah, so M is relative to like the font size of its like so is I guess so EM is relative to the font size of its like direct or like nearest parent, okay? But rem is only relative to like the root of like the root font size, which is I think is like your HTML, okay? So at least so I personally prefer M in my opinion. That's kind of what I use. I don't really use rem often. So as I said, that's just me. But for anything in regards to like just styling or spacing or something like that, I also don't really use pixels as often. But as you'll as we go further in this, you'll see I use a lot more, like I use pixels and everything like that. But as I said, It depends. I actually had to like read a lot of articles on this back in the day. I'll have to link them and everything like that. But there's a lot of use cases on like where you would use M, where would you use rem, why would you use pixels, why would you use like view height, like what are the different cases and what are the scenarios. And I'm actually, as I said again, I'm still like trying to refresh and even improve my CSS as well. Yeah, I'll link some articles and we can probably go further into that later on. Down the line at another time if that interests you. Okay, so now that we've done this, I'm also going to give it a display block, although it is a block element. Oh, it's block. I'm going to go ahead and give it a display block. All right, and then next up, what we'll do is that we're going to go ahead and style our subtitle a bit. Okay. So for our subtitle, we're going to go ahead and give it a font size of 42 pixels. We'll say a word spacing. So instead of letter spacing, we're going to be using word spacing. Word spacing of roughly 5 pixels. Okay, and then we'll have a padding bottom, and as we'll get to that in a moment, and I'll show you a reason why. But we'll have a padding bottom of 15 pixels. Okay. Oh, and I forgot a font weight of 100. Okay. So when we save this, and you're probably wondering, Austin, why do we have this padding? So I'm going to go ahead and refresh that, and it gives us a little bit more spacing between our between those buttons. Okay. So that's inherently why. Let's see. So next up, what do we need to do? We need to go ahead and after the subtitle. Oh, you know what I forgot to do? Something very important. I always love clearing my styles. Please bear with me here. I have not taught in a minute, and I've been in quarantine mode, so I've like been deprived of talking to people. So you're gonna have to excuse me. I love clearing my styles every time I as I said, I love clearing my styles every time I use CSS. So I'm gonna do a margin 0, a padding of 0 at the very top. And if anyone doesn't know what this selector is, it's like I think the any selector we call it, or like the wild. It's like wild card or any selector, and it selects like everything. Okay. I don't recommend you use this often, but in regards to like clearing your styling, I recommend you do it. And the reason why I do this is because different browsers use like different types of styling. Like although like for example like 10 pixels in one browser could be slightly different. Same with like coloring and all that different stuff. Margin, whatever it is. So different browsers renders different things differently. So this, as I said, sort of clears up everything and allows us to be able to work, have less errors on our CSS. And then we refresh and we kind of have this. Okay. So now this is looking a little bit quite similar to what we have, right? Next up, what we need to do is we're going to have to go in here and we're going to go ahead and let's just dive in and start styling these buttons. So by the way, does anyone have any questions so far? How's everyone doing? I know I'm like going at it. Looking to see if we can get this done in like an hour. And but again, how's everyone doing so far? Does anyone have any questions at all? Please shoot away if you do. Forever hold your peace.
This is being recorded.
Yeah, it's being recorded. And I'll
there
probably
will be a link sent at the end of the day.
Yeah, I'll upload it and I'll send a link.
Cool, thanks.
All right, gotcha. And I may re-record myself for clarity for everyone. So yes, next up, what we'll do is that we're gonna go ahead and make sure you mute it, good people. All right, so next up, what we'll do is that we're gonna go ahead and start styling our buttons. So our buttons is that we're gonna give it a display inline, not inline, but inline block. Okay. Is anyone here familiar with like display, like block, inline?
Yeah, so display block gives the whole row. The inline is just at a specific amount, and inline block give us that let us to just change the width.
Okay. So does anyone know like what inline block, like what does that all like look like? And in fact, what I'll do is that I can show you real quick. In fact, let's go ahead and take a look real quick. So okay, so what we'll do is I'll go ahead and show you what block looks like. Okay, so block takes up the entirety of like that entire width. Okay, so it's very difficult for you to be able to like move elements around. You really can't. As I said, it takes up an entire that entire row per se. Uh, Inline block. Let's see here, display. Let's see, not flex grid. Let's see here. So if we look at inline block up next, inline block, as I said, it doesn't take up the entirety of your as what it did before, like that entire row. Inline block, as I said, and we'll get to like the difference between inline and inline block, but you still have a block element that allows you to be able to as I said, you can now shift things. You can set like a margin, like margin center. You can still center it and everything like that, and you'll be perfectly fine. Then inline, so that's inline block. So inline itself, and let's see here. So I know you're probably looking at this, Austin. There's not much difference between inline and inline block. Okay, like they both sort of look the same, especially in this instance. But the major difference between inline block is that it allows to set a width and height on an element. But with inline, top and bottom margins of paddings are pretty much like they're not respected. All right, and but with inline block they are. Okay. So as I said, so with inline block you're able to, as I said, like you're able to work with margin and padding, but with inline you're not able to do so. Okay. So hopefully that makes a little bit more sense. Next thing what we'll do is after this, let's go ahead and go back here. We've set an inline block. What we want to do is let's go ahead and let's make this look a little bit nicer. This button look a little bit nicer. Okay. We're going to set a border radius of 4 pixels. Okay. And text decoration to none. Now, if you don't know what text decoration is, if you look at this little line at the bottom, you know how you have that, like the purple or whatever, the links and everything like that, that's your text decoration, okay? That blue and blue underline. So when we set that to none, all that will disappear. Next up, we will set some padding on the inside. And we're going to give the inside of our element some padding. We're going to give it 10 pixels and then 30 pixels, and this should make it look a little bit more like a button. It should make it look nice. And then we're going to give it some font weight of let's say 400. Okay. So when we save this and we refresh, it doesn't look too bad. Now, as you can see right here, if we highlight over this, and can y'all see this by the way? There we go. Let me zoom in. I don't know why I didn't do that before. As you highlight over this, we see that we have the padding, right? We have the border radius, which we'll see in just a moment as and then we also have so yeah, as I said, so they have their padding, their text decoration is set to none, and if we were to disable that, as you can see here, that's applied. Padding. And then if we just, as I said, if we just go ahead and remove display inline block, by default, anchor tags are, if I'm not mistaken, they're inline. So things such as like, padding top and bottom aren't respected. So they just, they won't be applied, essentially. Okay. And we'll get to this font weight in a moment, and same with the border radius, okay? So we wrote down border radius, but you're like, Austin, we have no border. We haven't even established that. And you are correct, which we will now do, okay? So those are the base styles of both our buttons. Now, next up, as we stated before, we had 2 buttons. This one right here was green. This one right here was gray. So let's go ahead and do that real quick, okay? So I'm going to create a button class called green, and we're going to give it a border. And this border, we're like, hey, you know what? We want it to be 1 pixel. All right, 1 pixel. It's going to be solid, and we want to give it a like that, sort of that that greenish sort of feel. Okay, and I think it's like what 70 C1B3. Okay. And we're also going to give it a color. Okay. Now, what color do we want to give this? We're going to give it a color of the same thing. So I'm going to go ahead and copy this. And when we save this, we'll see is that we now have this button right here. Okay. Looks nice, right? But when we hover over it, nothing's happening. Right. Well, we'll get to that in just a moment. But and in effect, let's go ahead and style our other one. Okay. We'll talk about this in a moment. But let's just go ahead and style our gray one. Okay. So I'm going to go here, and we're going to just go ahead and create another button class. We're going to call it gray. Okay. We're going to give it a border of this is the same thing, 1 pixel. All right. Doesn't have to be really doesn't have to be thick. It's going to be really thin. 1 pixel solid, and 50514F. Oh, that's 1606. Let's see, 50514F. Okay. We're going to copy this. We're going to do the same thing as we did above. Okay. Give it a color of the same exact thing. All right. So when we save this and we take a look, it's cool, right? But as I said again, when we highlight over both of those, we don't have that kind of cool hover effect. And also, if we take a look here, is that what we see right here next to to these buttons, that they're kind of hugging one another. So what we need to do is we need to go ahead and add some spacing. All right. So how are we going to do that? So what we'll do is anyone here know how to? Before I actually go ahead and answer this, we're going to add what?
Space between on Flexbox, is that right?
I'm sorry. What did everyone say? Oh, hello.
Is there like a space between property you can use in Flexbox?
We can use space between. I was going to do something a little bit easier, like something really simple. I was actually just going to do like a margin left, but we can do space between. But here, let me go ahead and show you. I was just going to do something like a margin left, 15 pixels, something really small. So we have a little bit more of a gap between both of these buttons. I should probably utilize Flexbox a bit more. But again, but there's a space between. I haven't used space between often. So let's see here real quick. That's not something I use very often. I'll look into that.
Space around or something like that. I think space between will put them all the way to the outside edges.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. I think it's like, yeah, that's what I was saying. I was like, space between, I think just, pops them on 2 separate ends. Maybe space around? Huh. What the? We'll play with that later. I'll have to play with that later. Okay. But for now, what we've done is that we've now created, as a very standard layout, we've created our view portfolio, our GitHub, but when we click this GitHub, we take a look at this, nothing's happened. That's because we haven't linked our GitHub at all, okay? And we still haven't created that highlight effect. So let's go ahead and do that real quick, okay? So first thing what we'll do before we, let's go back over here, and let's go ahead and link it to our GitHub, okay? Let's go ahead and link this, this page right here. When we click this button, we want to link it to our GitHub. So what we'll do is that we'll just go ahead and go to our GitHub page, which I have right here. If you don't have one, that's okay. And if you're like, hey, it's going to take me a little bit to pull up because my internet is, a little bit rough, just link it later. No big deal. But I'm going to go ahead and link mine. And then what we'll do now is let's take a look here. When we refresh, actually doesn't open up a new tab, right? In fact, it just like takes us directly away from our landing page, and it just takes us to my GitHub, which is cool and all, but I kind of want to leave this open, right? I just want to have, whenever I click GitHub, I want GitHub to open in a new tab. So how do we do that? Anyone know? Okay. So what we will do is that we will use the target attribute, okay? And we'll do target underscore blank. All right. So whenever we do target, when we click this, boom. Target, or it says this underscore blanks allows us to open up whatever our link in a completely separate tab. Okay. So we don't, or a different page, different, you want to call it, yeah. So we open it up in a different tab, and we can just always exit out of it, and we go back to our landing page. Okay, so not too bad, right? Now next up, what we want to do is, now that we have that, is that let's go ahead and try to get that hover effect going. Okay, because that looked kind of cool, and we kind of want to have that. So what we'll do here is, what we'll do is that we'll go ahead and start with the green one, and I'll kind of go back up here, and let's do that real quick. Okay. So we'll do button hash green, and then anyone here know how to get the hover the hover? Anyone know how to call that whenever you like want to hover over something?
Colon hover, is that it?
Yes. So this is what we call pseudo elements. So I think there's like click, hover. Let's see here. Look real quick. I know there's like before and after. Let me see, what are some other ones? Yeah, so there's like Q region, all this different stuff. I'll have to link it and everything like that. But let's see here. But yeah, hover is one of them. There's a lot of them. Last child, last of, not. There's a lot of pseudo elements you can work with that are honestly very useful. Focus is another one as well too. Active. So if a link is active, or if this is like, you know, the active or whatever it is, you can go ahead and you can use that. But there's a lot of pseudo classes that you can work with. All right, so but the hover one is what we're wanting to work with. So whenever we hover over anything that has the class button green, we want to go ahead and apply the styles. So what style do we want to apply? We want to set the color of our text to white, and then we want to set that background color, like the background color of as I said, of that element, or to that nice little that nice little green that we have. So when we refresh this, boop, you see that right there? So hey, you know what? We're gonna hover over it. And when we hover over it, the background color changes, and so does our text color as well too. Okay, let's go and try to do the same thing with our gray button. Okay, so we're gonna do anything that has the button gray class. When you hover over it, what do we want to do? We want to go ahead and change the color of that text to white, and then we want to set that background color. I wonder if I can just do BG color. Oh, that's nice. Okay, that is fancy. I love this autocomplete stuff. And then we can set it to what we have here. Okay. So now anything with the class button gray, whenever you hover over it, it will now apply these styles. Okay. So when we save this, we refresh, boom, this happens, right? Not bad. It did a little bit of magic. And now, last but not least, I know it is like 2:59. We're gonna do one last thing, okay? And that one last thing that we're gonna want to do is, well, two last things. We're gonna have to like get we want to switch up this font. I kind of had it to, I think it's called Robo something. It's like whatever. Anyway, look at some Google fonts. We'll have to apply it. I think it's like the Robo font for Google. You can look at it inside the finished folder, or like the finished index.html, and you can actually snag it. So if we want to do that, we can actually do that right now. We're gonna just do this real quick, okay? So inside our finished folder, link this, or copy this link right here that we have in our finished folder. That's right above our styles.css. And I want you to go inside our start folder, what we had before, and I want you to go ahead and paste that as well above our style.css. Okay. So I'll give you all a moment to do that. And while you're doing that, I'm going to go ahead and wait, and then I will refresh. All right. Let me know when you all have it. And when you do have it, we're gonna have to do one quick we're gonna have to apply those styles. So what I've done so far is that I went to the Google Fonts API, Google Fonts, and I went ahead and said, hey, you know what? I want to go ahead and choose a specific font family. I want to choose the Roboto Roboto, I guess, font family. And I want to have like the weight. I want to have the 100, the 300, and the 400. Okay, so whenever I give anything with a font weight of 100, 300, 400, it'll apply. Or yeah. So and then you're like, all right, this is cool, Austin. Whenever I save this and refresh, it's not working, and that's because we haven't defined that specific font family. Okay, so how are we going to do that? What we'll do is that we're going to go inside our styles. We're going to go inside our CSS. Okay, and under this, what we're going to do is that we're going to say, hey, you know what? Inside our container, I want to say anything. As I said, let's see. We're going to give anything, we will give inside our container the. Oh, I can hear someone. I don't know if they're washing dishes or something, but okay. We're gonna give it that Roboto font family. Okay, and this is the font family that we loaded from Google Fonts, and then we're also gonna have a fallback font. So just in case Roboto doesn't work, you're like, oh snap, Google just happened to go down, which has happened in the past, or is it that API just happened to go down, which has happened. Things have happened in the past, or better yet, just not able to render it. We can have a fallback font, and this fallback font can be sans serif. Okay, so when we save this now and we refresh, we get a different look, and it looks kind of nice, right? Okay, so that's cool and all. Now it's time for the final part. This is where we're gonna go maybe like 5 minutes over. Hopefully everyone's okay with that. If you're not, feel free to drop out. Apologize for it being a little bit longer than expected, but we're just gonna finish up this last bit. Now, this right here is actually gonna be my favorite part, in my opinion. We're gonna go ahead and apply this little style right here. You see that right there? So it looks kind of cool. You're like, wow, Austin, how do you do that? Don't worry, I got you. Okay. So what we'll do is we're gonna go ahead and say, hey, you know what? Not inside this container, but actually outside of this container, we're gonna actually define a div that literally encapsulates this entire container. So it's gonna be at the start of this body tag, like literally right under it, and then right above the last body tag. Okay, and then we save that, and now that entire div literally encapsulates our entire, like anything, everything. Okay, so what we'll do now is that we're gonna give this a class of a background, so BG gradient cover. Okay, so bear with me here, and I'll wait. I know I'm moving a little bit fast. Am I moving too fast? Okay, I take that as moving too fast. So let me know. Okay, so we've all created that class, as I said. Okay, we've got that. Now that we've copied this class, let's go ahead and say, hey, we're gonna copy this. We're gonna go inside our CSS. We're gonna go to the very top, and we're gonna define that. Okay. Now this is where the fun begins. Okay. So y'all stay with me here. Okay. Right now is that what we're gonna do is that we're gonna define a background. Okay. Now we're gonna give this background, instead of it like a background, like a a color, whatever it is, we're gonna go ahead and do something really interesting, which is called linear gradient. Okay. So linear gradient, as you can see, it's a nice little CSS function. Okay. Has anyone ever worked with linear gradient before? No? Yes? No? Maybe so? Has anyone worked with that before?
I did.
Okay. So linear gradient, and in fact, I'm literally just going to read this straight out of the MDM docs, but a linear gradient is a CSS function that pretty much allows you to create a image consisting of a transition, like a progressive transition between two or more colors along a straight line. Okay. So you're able to like pretty much blend colors. So let's say, for example, if I want to start with inside here, you're like saying, hey, I have a linear gradient. I want to have something. I want to have it start with and as I said, with let's say our green that we have. Let's see here. So 527B. Oh, there it is. Oh no, BHC. All right, and I want to have it end, or better yet, sorry about that. Let me see real quick. I'm gonna have it start with green and end with gray. you could totally do that, okay? So when we save this, actually before we save that, let's give it a background size. And I'm going to give it a background size of cover, okay? We're going to give it a background position. So it's going to be positioned. Position of top. And then the position itself is going to be relative, okay? Now, as I said, I'm going to give you all a moment to copy that real quick. But as I said, linear gradient's really cool, and you can kind of add some cool stuff with it, or you can kind of make your website look a little bit janky depending on how good you are with, with styling. Okay. But what we're going to do now is that we're going to go back here and we're going to go ahead and refresh. And as you can see here, we made it look okay. Looks kind of interesting. It's like a murky, deep sort of I feel like this could we could probably switch this up, style it, and make it look like a Jaws sort of theme. But as you can see here, we start, as I said, we've gave it a background size of the cover. Okay, so if anyone here knows what background, does anyone know what cover does at all? No. No. Okay. Anyone familiar with that at all?
So it makes it cover the whole page, right? It should be
Yeah.
like this.
Yeah. So yeah, it covers the background and the background or whatever in like the positioned area that you have. Okay. So looking at this, okay, that looks okay. Now for me, what I ended up doing was that I ended up, as I said, this is something I'm still like working with and trying to have some fun with and experiment around with. I ended up doing this, okay, and when we save this, instead of it being that gray, we now have it solid, but that doesn't really look too bueno, right? Because now we can't really see our view portfolio. That's the same color, right? So what we'll do is we'll make it a little bit darker. And how will I do that? I'm going to go ahead and what we're going to do is that we're going to go ahead and make this a little bit darker. And in fact, if you don't have this inside your text editor, you should be able to highlight over this. There it is. And you can drag this over. Let's see here. Just a little bit. You can play around with this, okay? So the joy of this, like 5.2, I don't know, but long story short, you can make this look a lot darker, okay? And we're gonna go and do exactly just that, okay? Now I'm just gonna give it I'm gonna keep it simple because we're running out of time here. We're a little bit past overtime. And I'm gonna say, our linear gradient, the cover is gonna be 527B8C, all right? And if you're like, Austin, don't want to cover this, you can either look at the finished folder, and I just posted in the chat as well. Okay. So when we save this and we take a look, we refresh, it now looks kind of cool, right? So this is we're getting like really close. All we have to do is just change the color of this and add that little cool clip, a little style right there. And what we'll do right now is that we'll add that little style, and then I'll let y'all like change the color of this, which I'm sure will be very easy, or the color of that text. So what we'll do is that let's go back here and let's do this real quick. Okay, so what we're gonna do here is we're gonna use something called clip path. All right, and anyone here ever used clip path before? No? Well, cool. Well, inside ClickPath, you can do a lot of different things, right? You can this is where like a lot of really cool, like those cool CSS like styles that you see on like CSS tricks or CodePen. People end up using ClickPath quite often. All right, I don't know if you ever saw like the Garfield or like those really cool CSS projects or anything like that. But people use the ClickPath, right? For us, what we're going to be using is you can use circle. There's ellipses, or is it just ellipse? I don't know. I don't English well. I JavaScript better than I English. Inset, but one in particular, we're going to use polygon. Okay. Now we can play around with this, but I'll go ahead and I'll type this out real quick, and I'll define, and I'll sort of show you what exactly is happening. Okay. We'll do %. So the first one, we're going to start at position 0, 0, and if I'm not mistaken, that is the top left. Okay. So it's like an X and a Y. All right. So we're now defining the shape. Okay. So if we take a look at this, and let me go ahead and finish this up real quick. VH, and then 0, 100%. Okay. And I'll go ahead, and what I'll do right now is I'm going to refresh this, and let's go into like what exactly is happening. Okay. So let me zoom into our console, and let's take a look at like this polygon, because you're like, all right, this is cool, Austin, but I don't know exactly what's happening here, and that's all right. So let's go ahead and dive into this. Okay. So what's happening here is so as you can see here is that we have this clip path, and this clip path is establishing, saying, hey, like this background cover, like, as I said, we're defining a polygon. All right. So we're clipping this into like a polygon. Now, what exactly is happening? So if we were to set this to, let's say, is anyone here like, okay, so I want you all to play around with this real quick, all right? And I want you all to see like what exactly is happening here, but we're gonna start from 0, 0, and we see we have like 100% 0, right? Well, what happens if we do 100%, I think? Some weird stuff starts happening, okay? As you can see here, let's try 50%. I love playing around with this. Long story short, you can see that we're having some like really interesting things happening here, okay? So as you see right here, even for this, so this is working with, I think it's what, top left, top right, and then bottom left, okay? So if we take a look here at this one right here, if we were to do, let's say, 100, I want to say, or no, let's see here real quick, 0, you can see that we are, sheesh, killing me here, Smalls. Let's see here. See that we're only wanting to take up, so 100, 100 would allow us to, it could be 100%. But this essentially, as you can see right here, is that we're moving up, like it's we're only taking up 80% of the entirety of this. Okay, like we're this is always a hard one for me to sort of cover. Let me see real quick. So long story short, what exactly is happening? Okay, so I'll go ahead and copy this real quick, and we can probably take a look at it. But long story short, it allows you to make these complex shapes in CSS by clipping an element to a basic shape. Okay, and those basic shapes are circles, ellipses, polygons, or insets, or to an SVG source. Okay, so it's really cool because this allows us to do things like as I said, CSS animations and transitions are possible with 2 or more clip path shapes. With the same number of points. So what does that exactly mean? And what exactly are we doing here? So long story short, if we look at a polygon, and I'll go ahead and link this because I think y'all might like this a lot. Boom. So if we take a look at this developer, let me go ahead and boom. Let's go ahead and do this. All right. Let's go ahead and take a look at this. Okay. So as you can see right here, if we click at this clip path demo, we're able to see that we're able to make some really interesting shapes. Okay, and I'll zoom in a bit more so we all can see what's up. Okay, so you can see right here we've created a polygon. All right, we're defining a polygon as a function, and then that we set this to 50%. Now, if we were to set this to 100%, 0, you'll see that. Let's see, 100%. Let's try a 100%. 100%. I just kind of played around with it. I'll be honest. I kind of played around with it, and I just found out like just how this worked. But long story short, let's see here. Let's see if we can sort of define this. If I can define this a bit more. As I said, I kind of played around with clip path a bit, and I figured out how it worked. I'm gonna have to go back, and it looks like that I don't know it well enough if I can't explain it. So as I said, I played around with this, found something, and it's sort of like, it worked. But my recommendation to you is what I will do is that, as I said, as someone who is an instructor and who should know what I am teaching, I will go ahead and I will do research on this. I will then write an article on it and I will publish it and let you all know specifically how this works. Okay. But as of now, what we have done, because we were way over time, is that we've now created this page. All you have to do now is give the title and the subtitle a text color of white, and you will literally be done, and you've just created a very interesting landing page. Oh, subtitle, there it is. Might help if I do that. Boom. Okay. So again, thank you everyone for like coming out, and I know we have quite a bit of questions. I'll link whatever link stuff to like whatever questions you have, and I'll try to answer any. Does anyone like have any questions real quick? Anyone have anything at all? Yes, no, maybe so. I'm like loving the feedback here, people. No, but seriously, all right. So, what was everyone's thoughts? Was I going to, as I said, what did everyone think? Was it good? A little bit too quick? How did you all feel about this?
I loved it. Thank you so much.
Okay.
Yeah,
Now,
great.